Now, US President Donald Trump, since assuming office earlier this year, bless you, Rufai, since assuming office earlier this year, has embarked on major economic policies, from tariff hikes to new visa policies, among others. Now, recently, Trump threatened to impose an additional 10% tariff on any country aligning itself with the so-called anti-American policies of the BRICS group of developing nations. Also, recently too, the United States government announced that most Nigerians applying for non-immigrant visas will now only get single-entry visas with 3-month validity. Joining us now on the show this morning to discuss the implications of these policies on private and government business in Nigeria and Africa is Dele, who is the former president of the Organised private sector. A very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. Well, I guess we should ask, should we be worried in light of all of these changes coming from different parts of the world, United States, United Arab Emirates, Canada? How should the average Nigerian be responding to these changes?
Good morning. Well, first of all, the changes have several impacts. What is involved, first of all, is non-immigrant visas. And it specifically states that you only have 3 months single re-entry. For businesses, this is a major issue because it impacts Nigeria exports, the ability for Nigeria to send more goods into the US. They also impact on the trade relations. They also has economic impact. And the visa restrictions affect business travel, restriction of talent, and most importantly, it is inimical to Nigeria's business with the United States. And it also has economic consequences. It has reduced business travel, talent mobility, and could lead to decreased investment, reduced economic activity, and lost opportunities. On the private sector, the Nigerian businesses will need to adapt to the new realities by exploring alternative markets and diversifying their export. On the government side, the Nigerian government may need to respond to the tariffs by negotiating. Our foreign minister has already said Nigeria intends to negotiate. Potential solutions, we need to diversify our market. Nigeria needs to trade more outside the US. Then on the diplomatic efforts, I've already mentioned we need to negotiate. On investment promotion, we need to recalibrate our NIPC so that we can go into new markets on the issue. For students, it has a major impact because students, though they do normally have the F1 visa, which allows them to stay longer. But if before November, they are already in the US, after November, they cannot travel except once. So if you're already in the US, you tend to come home for Christmas, you have to make sure you take another visa before you go back. But if you're already in the US, even though you were stamping for 3 months, you can stay if your I-20 visa, that's very important, your I-20 visa is still valid. You can stay longer than the 3 months. So the visas are imparted at the B1, B2, F, and J visas. So these are the issues, and I think Nigeria should respond by trying to make sure they negotiate this.
Negotiate with a Trump that is a tango person in nature. A tango person in nature. He likes to do the tango dance, and Trump will always chicken out and change his mind. So it's a tango. Like the Americans say, it's a double whammy. How do you negotiate with such a person that is very fickle, can change his mind any time? And secondly, this ban was not about reciprocity or anything, or the fact that, our government removed the 5-year we normally used to give to America. It was because of some salient issues like, overstaying your visa time and all of that, which also behoves on their authorities over there. And that's why a lot of people say it's just another punitive brush by tango on us as a people. What do you say to that, sir?
Well, the reasons they gave is that they want to improve their security benchmark. And the details of that means that they said the security of travel documents, the reasons of overstay, and information sharing. While they initially gave the impression that it was in response to Nigerian e-visa policy, indeed, Nigerian embassy in the US still give 2 to 5 years visa if it is not under the e-visa platform. And that is why they now come up with these other 3 reasons. On the issue of negotiating with Trump, well, first of all, America currently overplays its significance because it is barely, in terms of global trade, America is even behind China. If you look at the current records on international global trade. And that is why Nigeria needs to diversify. Negotiating with Trump, you say, well, we don't have much of an option, I would say. First of all, it was Henry Kissinger that said that it is not to be a friend of America is dangerous. To also to be an enemy of America is fatal. America is still the global leader in terms of its size and the payment system using the American dollar system. So while we move for the current rise of China and the alternative markets, there is a significant trade between Nigeria and China, which stood at the one I was mentioning earlier was the issue of the role of America in the world. Currently, even though China is 12.3% of global trade, while the USA is 10.8%, EU is 11.4%. But the trade between Nigeria and America is still significant. In the first quarter this year, it was about $2.2 billion, which is about 20% less than the same last year, which was $2.6 billion. This is a significant figure. And that is why we must find a way to negotiate.
So my question is,
how do you
negotiate with a mercurial human being like Trump? Mercurial. It changes like mercury.
Okay,
I'll give you an instance.
I'll give you an example.
I'll give you an instance. Trump recently said, at the set time, we will do trade deals. All of a sudden, he changed his mind again. So how do you, he just tabarudi something. How do you negotiate with such a man? Do we go and beg him like South Africans beg him and didn't work for them?
Why are you pointing at
No.
Sorry.
What I would tell you is Trump is very transactional. And he also appears extremely unprepared at times. It is for us, if you look at other countries that are currently negotiating in the US, they've not been able to fix, apart from Britain, who claim they have a trade deal. You have to keep engaging. I already told you what Henry Kissinger said. You have to find a way to deal with him. The last visit of the 5 African head of states who went there without any agenda, you can see how they were humiliated. But they did not pick up the fight there, even though they expressed reservations after they left there. You have to keep the door open because 2.2 billion in one quarter is a significant figure in trade for Nigeria to completely ignore.
It certainly is. And
most
while we're on
importantly,
the
the payment
talk of
system.
those statistics, so sorry to interject, our time is almost up. So while we're talking statistics, some of those numbers are out. So if you look at our trade, Nigeria-US trade from 2024 in comparison to 2025, I believe we've dipped by about 20%. We've lost almost $500 million in a trade value that we had been doing. Even our oil exports have also decreased. In 2024, over a 5-month period, we did over 20 million barrels. And this year, in a same 5-month period, we've done just over 17 million barrels to the United States. I'd like to know the direct impact that you've witnessed or that you're hearing from Nigerian businesses so far, because these are huge numbers. So I'd just like for you, in closing, just to share some of the stories that you know on the ground of what Nigerian businesses are going through and how entrepreneurs are trying to make ends meet, given the loss of such a huge market. Well, not loss, but the difficulty in accessing such a huge market.
Well, the loss of about 20% in the first quarter of trade with the US is a significant loss for a country like Nigeria. What we are currently doing That's why we must stay engaged so that we don't lose the remaining. And there's no doubt the impact or the reasons for this is not unconnected. While we're all looking to the renewal of AGOA, we are receiving additional tariffs or threats of tariffs. But the Chinese have just recently said for 53 out of its 4 countries in Africa, they would give free trade. And we have also seen within the Schengen area, about 5 countries saying they will increase the up to 5 years visa for our businesses. So the best things to look, while negotiating, to look for alternative markets. We cannot ignore America because, I like it or not, they still represent about 90% of the current payment system under the SWIFT. So there are alternatives, but we have to develop those markets. And for us as businesses, it has been a huge loss. And the American market has been something we tend to grow. But since we're having these pushbacks, it's for us to exploit this new free trade barrier that is coming up in the East, especially with China, the EU, and most importantly, we need to develop our intra-African trade. It's just only 15% now. We are doing with, I'm talking of intra-African trade, 15%. We should grow it. And we take the example of what happened with Uganda when they were having problem with the gay issue. When America refused them to do businesses, they were only doing about $1.5 million. They were able to trade within Africa over $5 million.
Yes, they were.
So we should find a way to grow our intra-African trade under the FCTA.
Thank you very much.
I think there are alternatives, but we should not stop engaging. We must find a way. Although there are other reasons I've said, the 300 Venezuela refugees they wanted us to accept, which we may not be unconnected. But what is important is for Nigeria to stay strong. Africa is a very rich resource continent.
Thank you so much.
I think we should look more inwards.
Agreed. I think that's an excellent place for us to end.
Right.
Thank you for joining us. That was, of course, Dele, who's the former president of the Organised Private Sector. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.